Hi guys, welcome to IC 3D People again, and today we're going to do some modeling. We're going to look at creating this cat head from a cube, um, and yeah, it's going to be step by step, so it's going to be kind of a long one. I'm a bit unwell in making this video, so excuse the sniffles and some of the coughing, but hopefully you learned something. Before we get into it, just don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Um, yeah.
Okay, let's jump into it. First thing I like to do is just in my gizmos just have the move one ticked on, and that's just personal preference. You guys can decide whether or not you want that. Um, then the first thing we actually need to do is go Control A, Image Reference, um, and then over here, what we can do is find our picture. I've just found this random image on Google. You can if you want the same one, let me know. I'll upload it somewhere for you to download. Just leave a comment down below. Load image reference, and what I want you to notice as well, and I'm just going to delete this because I forgot to mention something. Uh, when you load in your reference images, what you can do is untick this. So if this is ticked, it'll align it to your current view, untick it, and it's just going to put it flat. And I find then what you can do is just make that a bit easier to rotate. So then over in the transform section of the properties, I'm going to put 90 degrees, and I've done it in location, not rotation. So rotation, 90 degrees, and now if I press 1, it's right in front. So what we can do now is go, make sure you've got this selected, and jump down here onto the object data properties, and then you can go front. And what that's going to do is make sure that image reference is always in front, and then you can click on the opacity and bring this down somewhat, down to uh, 0.02 is okay. Yep, so you can kind of see where it is. And then I'm just going to move this into the center a bit more into the center, so it kind of just lines up. And what you can do is kind of judge it on the cube, because you know the cube's centered, and then this doesn't have to be perfect, but just enough to make it center enough. Cool. So that's adding the image reference, and then throughout this tutorial, I'm going to be switching it on and off using this eye over here. Let's keep it on for now. So the first thing I want to do is just shape the head. So to do that, let's click on our box, and I'm going to click Control 2, and what that does is it just gives it, that's just the shortcut to add a subdivision, a modifier. So over here we can see we've added a subdivision modifier, and then I'm going to move this up and place it roughly around there. Cool. And then what we can do then is that scale's okay. Just looking at this now, I think we might need some more geometry, so I'm going to press Control 3, which is going to turn the levels of the viewport up, and I'm just going to click that one there to add the levels of the render. So what that'll allow me to do now is just shape this a bit better. So I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode, and then actually no, I'm not going to press Tab to go back into object mode, and I'm going to apply this. So what that'll do then is apply that modifier, and now when we press Tab, we have all this geometry to work with. So the next thing I want to do is this button up here at the top is O, well, proportional editing, and I'm going to click that. Now, um, before we do any edits, what I want to do is just select half of this, because just to make things a bit quicker and easier, I'm going to delete this. So select all of it, press X, and then press faces. And before you do that, press the what's this called again? The X-ray mode. So when you select it, you press X, faces, and that'll get everything behind as well. Again, sorry, I'm a bit unwell, so if I sound a bit sniffly, just try and ignore it. Okay, so next thing we can do now is we're going to jump back into object mode. We're going to click it, and we're going to go back to the modifiers. make sure you've got this selected. We're going to go back to modifiers and we're going to add a mirror modifier. Now, the other thing you want to do is click on clipping. Once you've applied the mirror object, it'll just let us do some extra, it'll just make it put the symmetry on. So press tab, and what I want to do is press proportional editing, and now I kind of just want to start shaping this to my reference image. So I'm going to start on the bottom to get this up a bit more. So you can press 1, and then I'm just going to press the middle mouse button, scroll under, and I'm going to press 3, which is the face select, and I'm going to press these two. So just these two in here. Press 1, and that'll get us back to the front view. So when you hold this now, so see this circle around, this big circle around now. So that's the affected area of the proportional editing. If I scroll that out, it's going to make affect more and less. So about there, probably a bit more, maybe around half the object. So just about there. And now what I'm going to do is just unclick, and now I've got that bottom part sort of in line. And now I might speed this up, but I'm just going to reshape the rest of this this head here. So again, one, to get the front view, I'm just going to scroll around, and I'm just going to think this one here and this one here, and I'm going to press 1 again, and then I'm going to go and see. Look, now we've got the proportional editing, and that's worked out pretty well. Yeah, so that was good. I'm just going to go, now I'm just going to turn off X-ray mode just so I can see what it looks like. That's okay. Yeah, we don't need to get too crazy here. So that's pretty good. So if I go and press, I'm in object mode now, and now we press 1. Yeah, so look, it's not exactly lined up, but that's okay for these purposes. Okay, so next thing I want to do is right click and oops, click on my object, right click, shade smooth, and we're nice and smooth now. We can see we've got a bit, if you have a look, let's press 1. We can see that it's a bit jaggy, it's not quite rounded. So what we can do then is go Control Z, move that so the shade smooths off. I'm going to press Control 2 again, which is going to add another subdivision modifier. Okay. But I'm not going to apply it this time, and the reason is when I press Tab, I still want to only be able to, I still only want this geometry to edit, because if I press Apply, and I'll show you, go back into object mode, apply. Okay, so not only do we have this ugly crease down, and that's because we have a mirror applied after the fact. If we press tab now, we have, look, all this geometry, and it just makes it a bit difficult to work with. And your computer might not be able to handle that as well, because the more geometry, it's going to be a bit hard. So I'm going to press Control Z a couple of times to remove that. Okay. We might just move this subdivision up here. Okay. 1. That's perfect. That's better. Now what I'm going to do is go shade smooth, and now it's a bit smoother around there. Much better. Okay. Okay, so let's jump onto the ears now. So to do this, what I'm going to do is go Shift A and put in a cube. I'll scale this down a bit. And then I'm going to just move it over to my ear. And what I'm going to do now is press Control 3. And that'll give me a bit of geometry to work with. Again, that is the subdivision modifier. And on render, I'm going to press 3 as well. So now, what I can do is apply that. And when I press tab, it's going to give me a bunch of geometry to work with. I'm just going to make sure I have the proportional editing mode selected, and also have X-ray mode in selected, and it'll just make it a bit easier to select everything. So I'm going to click on hit 3 on your keyboard, and that's the numbers at the top, not the on your numpad, and that'll let what that's doing is changing up here is face select. So now I can select faces. So in order to shape this a bit, I'm going to press 1, and I'm going to start moving this around. So I'm going to select this one and this one, 1, and then I'm going to move this in a bit here. Okay, and okay, then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select these two, hit 1, and now as I move these, what I want to do is I want to start. See, my circle was way too big, it's affecting the whole thing. I just want to really start affecting this part. Okay. I'm then going to add a mirror modifier. I'm going to select the object button, and we're going to put it on the other side. I'm going to hit on the head, press the period button just to center things again. Okay, so to make the inner ear, what I'm going to do is click on the ear, hit tab, and then I'm going to select some of this geometry. So I probably want, I'm going to make sure you've got the face select on, about this much geometry. I'm just going to go up to here, come around, and select a good line. So that's going to look a bit weird there, so I'm just going to deselect that. And I'm just going to select all this. So another way you could do this, if you wanted to go a bit faster, is you could do the circle select. And that'll make things a bit quicker. And then all I'm going to do now is I'm going to move back over to the select box, and I'm just going to ever so slightly change my angle, and I'm going to press E to extrude. And I'm just going to bring that in, not too far, maybe there, and that's just going to make a nice inner ear. I'm going to press tab, and that'll give me our inner ear. Cool. So once we've done that, I'm going to just quickly go over things and make sure they're looking okay. Again, this here is not quite right, so let's just have a look. Tab. Now I'm going to press 2 for edge select. Just going to look here. 3. Make sure proportional editing is on just to make this a little bit. And then I'm going to select these lines. So that's from what you're seeing here is from the extrude. And I'm just going to start pushing this out again. 3. Zoom in a bit. That's a bit better. So Alt and click will select the loop. So that's what I've done, and I'm just going to move that out a bit. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, so in object mode, right click, shade smooth, pretty sure I did that. Okay, so ears are done. So let's look at creating the mouth. And one thing I have noticed is that the head shape is not quite right. We can probably move this over, move this side of the head in, just to make it a bit. Make sure you've got the X-ray. Just gonna do this, move this a bit back in, because all that will do is just make it a little bit more head-like. That's enough. Okay. Out of X-ray mode. So what I want to do now is create a mouth. So the mouth I want is to be around about here. So let's look at doing that. And we're just going to make this pretty simple. Click on your head, press tab, and I want to select some geometry. So I'm going to use the face select, so 3. Okay, so 3, and then I'm going to select some of these. I'm going to deselect those ones. Excuse me. So select these, and what we're going to do now is hit, I'm just going to change my angle a bit, pressing the middle mouse button, and press E to extrude. And that's a huge amount. That's Control Z. We can probably just get away with one of these. That's better. And I'm just going to put that in a little bit after hitting E. Great. And then what we can do now is press 1, and I'm just going to select some of these. Make sure you've got We don't need that this time. 1, and I'm just going to move these up so he's smiling a bit. Move that down. There we go, now he's got a bit of a smile. And what we can do in here is press Control R. If we can get the right loop. That one there. I'm just going to bring this out a bit so it, because otherwise it's a bit too curved in. I'm just going to make it a bit more flat, like so. Now we've got a bit of a nicer mouth. Okay, now he's smiling, and I think that's alright. That's enough in terms of mouth. We could put some teeth in, and we could put a tongue in, but for this tutorial, let's keep it quite simple. Next thing I want to do is add a nose. So back into object mode, Shift A, mesh, and then I'm going to add in a cube. So you can kind of see the repetitive technique here is where we've added a cube, Control T, Control 2 to make a subdivision modifier on it, and then we can change. I'm just going to scale it down a bit. I'm going to change my angle just so I can see where my nose is going. Here it is. I mean, we can make a really comical nose, but what I'm going to do is just make it a bit more stylized instead of comical. So a cat's nose is kind of like a triangle. So what I'm going to do is just turn off this, turn off the ears, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to scale it down a bit more still. Press 1 and period to zoom in. So again, like the head, what I'm going to do is press 3, tab. Again, apply the modifier first so you can select the geometry. 3 for face select. Make sure you have object X-ray mode enabled, and I'm just going to select this half of the subdivided cube, and I'm going to press X for delete and then faces, so we only have half. I'm going to go back into object mode, select this, add modifier, mirror, and I'm going to turn on the clipping. In here I'm going to press tab to go back to edit mode, and then I'm going to start shaping this out into like a cat nose. So much like before, make sure you've got the face select mode selected, and I'm going to select those two, and proportional editing is selected. One to go to the front, and then I'm just going to see my circle is way too big. I'm just going to bring that in using the mouse wheel. I'm going to start making this come out a bit, something like that, and that's not too bad. I'm just going to flatten the top, hit 1, and I'm just going to make the nose a bit pointier. Hit 1 so I can see what this looks like. There we go. And let's see what it looks like once I add the nose, the face back, and the ears. Turn off that. Go back into edit object mode, and that's about the right size, I think. What I'm going to do is just bring it out a bit more. Well, so now we bring it out a bit and we see what really is happening. Let's scale that on the Y. Something like that. I'm going to press 3 on the numpad, and then I'm just going to put it like that. So we need to angle this a bit. So I'm going to rotate on the X, and yep, just rotate it a bit like that. Okay, so if we press 1 again, we're good. If I press shade smooth, it's a bit too polygon-ish. Gonna press Control 2 on it just to make it a bit smoother. Okay, give it another subdivision. And we have a nose there. I'm going to press 3 to see what it looks like. So from this side it looks a bit flat. I'm going to press tab, and I'm going to press 1. And I'm just going to select this one, 3 again. And I'm just going to bring it out a bit like that. Right. that's a bit of a better nose. Cat nose is more angled like that, isn't it? Okay, let's select 3, 3, 1, 3. Okay. Nose is done. So for the eyes, let's make this pretty simple. Again, Shift A for add, mesh and cube. Scale it down, and I'm just going to move it out a bit. Bring it back. Okay, 1. I'm just going to scale it down even more. Control 3 this time. Okay, and then we're going to go to 1. So tab, probably don't need to apply the modifier this time. Take off proportional editing, and let's select these 2 vertices here. And oh, we don't even need to do that actually, do we? All we need to do is go into edit mode, into tab, into object mode, scale across the X. I'm going to make kind of like these beady type of eyes. Scale across the Z. And let's go over here, scale across the Y. Turn off X-ray mode, and I'm going to rotate this along the X just to make this a bit more aligned with the head. Three. I'm going to rotate it a bit more along the X. Like that. Okay. Alright, let's right click shade smooth, and I'm going to mirror this. So let's go to modifiers, add mirror, and select object here, and there we go. We have our cat with some eyes now. Okay, so let's add some whiskers, and again, this is going to be very similar to what we did before. We're going to go Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Just going to pull it out here. I'm going to scale across the Z-axis. Scale across the Z-axis. Scale across the X-axis. Something like that. Let's just skip 4. Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to press 3, scale across the Y-axis. Scale Y. Oops. Scale Y. Oh, what's going on? Scale Y. Okay. Just going to scale the whole thing down a bit. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is go to 3, and I'm just going to line this up for whiskers. They're probably around here. 1. Okay. And then I'm going to press Control 3. I'm not allowed Control 2. And let's have a look. Yeah, that's okay. And then I'm just going to add a press tab, loop mode, control R, sorry, tab to go to edit mode, control R to add a loop cut, and I'm just going to push it out here to flatten that out, add another one for the other side. Okay, and I'm just going to add another, so I'm going to add one in the middle, but then I'm going to press roll my mouse wheel to add 3. So what happened there was I accidentally moved it, so I'm going to do this again, and then click again to add it in. Okay, so to make a whisker, I'm going to hit 1, and I'm going to press 1 for vertices select, put on my X-ray mode, and I'm going to select these 3 here. I'm just going to push it up a bit, but I want proportional editing selected. So I'm just going to something like that. And then I'm going to select just the middle one, just to give it a bit of a bendy sort of look. Okay, so let's zoom out, see what that looks like. It's not bad. I think I need to rotate it out a bit, so let's go 3. And I'm going to rotate it that way. Let's rotate along the X. Nope, rotate Y. It's better. Okay. And then that's way off, so let's just move this back in. Turn off X-ray just to help this out a bit. Okay. 1. It's looking okay, and I'm just going to Shift D to duplicate this. Put it about there. Put it out forward a bit. I'm going to rotate along. I'm just going to rotate it and then put it out something like that. And then what I'm going to do is hit 1. I'm going to press tab, and I'm going to edit this out again. So just to make it not so quite the same, I'm just going to make it like that so it doesn't bend as much, and then just gives a bit of a variation. Tab. See if we can see this one is not quite in, and neither is this one. Let's put that in. Okay, so let's go there. So I'm going to shade smooth and shade smooth. Don't like the look of that. Let's push this down a bit. I'm going to rotate it out along the Z. No, Y. There we go. Rotate X out that way. There we go. Okay, that's looking better. Okay, 2 whiskers is enough. I'm just going to move this down a bit more. Okay, maybe doesn't need such a long one on the second one. Yeah, looks great. Let's go there. Okay, that'll do it. So what I'm going to do now is select both of these and right click and hit join. Then I'm going to do the modifier of mirror, and I'm going to select the head as the object, which will put it on the other side. Now I'm going to select the head, hit 1 and period just to zoom in, and our cat model is finished. We could add more detail to this. We could add in, like I said before, teeth and a tongue. We could add eyebrows. We could add some nostrils. We could add maybe a pupil. But for a beginner sort of type tutorial, I think that's completed. The next one, what we'll take a look at to doing is texturing this and adding some materials to give it some color. Um, so that is it. But for now, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and put the thumbs up. Um, and any feedback, please put it in the comments, because anything to make the channel better is always welcome. Until next time, take care, guys. See you later.